Welcome to Talent Titans, the podcast where we bring you entrepreneurs and leaders from the global staffing industry. I'm your host, Suki Sodi. Now let's jump right on in and welcome today's Titan.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Talent Titans. I have a really interesting guest for you today, Dave Sweetman from Project XIII. Dave, welcome.
Thank you, Suki. I appreciate it. It's exciting to be on.
Thank you. Now, let me just set the stage for everybody. The reason I'm excited for Dave to talk today is Dave literally launched his business the day or in that time frame where most people were like, no way are we making any kind of decisions. Let's just go status quo. So I'm going to let you tell us about Project XIII and how it was born.
Yeah, I appreciate the platform. Project XIII has kind of been something that, I guess before I get deep into it, it's kind of getting an understanding of me and my background and kind of where I come from. And, I'm almost 2 decades in the staffing industry now, pretty much all of that time spent specifically in the technical side of things, even more specifically on the engineering side of things. And the experience that I've been able to gather, whether it's tangible, intangible, the opportunities that have been presented to me over the years have kind of, they developed that burning desire to be able to provide more of a specific niche opportunity to partners and clients in the business. And, that's kind of the basic foundation of where Project XIII came from. Obviously, the name itself, the story. It's something that is derived and generated about my son, my 7-year-old son. It's something that I kind of established all around him. So more so, leveraging that whole family atmosphere and partnership style that I believe in a business. And it was exciting. We launched March 31st of this year. So we are coming up on almost 2 months now. It just so happened to coincide, obviously, with the Staffing Summit, which was a fantastic platform. I appreciate it. Thank you to go out there and present to the industry. A lot of great appreciation from the industry on that platform that was provided, and a lot of great opportunity to be able to speak with highly regarded individuals and get their take on their experiences in business ownership and entrepreneurial opportunities that they've had, as well as, pick the brains of some of the great industry leaders as to how they manage their business day to day. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been a whole long time coming and a whole lot going on, but it's been great. And I'm really excited.
Yeah, because we were chatting summer last year or whatever it was. And there was this burning desire you had to do this. You were, and I'm not talking it was an ego or a financial, but I just remember thinking, this is something he is 100% going to go into and he's going to do it. I guess it doesn't surprise me, but what surprised a lot of people was when you've done it. You pulled the plug, you left a well-paying job, so you could have stayed, quote unquote, put, pulling a paycheck until the timing, many people would say was better. But you pulled the plug during tariff talk, which is still continuing. We were like 2 or 3 weeks out from a general election here.
Yeah.
And it was a chaotic time, but you just went, nope, this is it.
Yeah, I can't say my timing was perfect, but I can say a lot of thought went into my timing. The reality of it is the thought behind this launch or establishing this opportunity was probably a decade old in conception. It was just a matter of being in the proper position in multiple capacities to be able to do this and do this correctly. I think one of the things that you take a look at, and I'll touch upon kind of like the thought behind why, the timing and that, but I think one of the things that really has to be evaluated is that it's very easy as a startup to be a catch-me-all because you get very scared about like, where's the revenue stream coming? How do we inject, cash into this operation? And that's when you establish an organization that you truly want to be an organization that has, a good background of technology and tools to leverage, as well as people to function within, as opposed to just being an independent with an independent number, maybe leveraging a different brand or maybe working just kind of onesie twosie here and there. So a lot of thought went into that, and specifically about like, what is it that we want to do and want to be. And this is kind of where the situation came along as to, once that was established and developed, that it was going to be a technical firm. It was going to be a firm that was going to focus specifically on 5 key pillars that we know well, which is the construction industry, the manufacturing industry, engineering consulting industry, heavy industrial, so your renewables, your energy, and then your IT. That then set the trajectory for, okay, so then how is this going to look and what is this going to look like? Now, the timing is rather unique in the sense that, yes, there was a major election going on, a lot of tariff talk thereafter. But you know what? When I evaluate that from a distance, I see opportunity in that. And that's kind of how the mindset that I took into that. There's a lot of great organizations, and I think I spoke about this a little bit at the summit, but there's a lot of great organizations that were established under some of the most difficult times in the world.
Yep.
During the Great Depression, during the housing collapse, during the automotive downturn, stuff like that. Now, I'm not by any means looking to establish anything that some of those companies did, like the Googles of the world or Uber or whatever the case may be. I am looking to be, just a nice little formidable shop that is a true partner to our clients, to our talent. But when you look at that, that's kind of where you see opportunity. And I think a lot of people would look at that time and be like, whether it's adverse to change or adverse to risk or fear of the unknown, those all sit within me. Absolutely. Yep. But there's a fire and a drive that goes beyond that. And it comes from multiple avenues. It's not an ego thing. It's leveraging your knowledge and your industry experience, leveraging your research and your network that you obviously have a lot of conversation with and you gather a lot of intel and data from, and then putting into place exactly, where is it that we're going to focus? What is it that we need to focus on? And staying within that, not stepping outside of our box, not, staying in our lane and focusing exactly where we need to be. So yeah, the timing was a scary time for sure. But the reality of it is I'm not here for a transactional, handshake with any of my partners or any of my talent. I'm here for a long-term relationship with our clients. And I'd rather be there during their toughest times and show them that I'm standing side by side with them. And I will provide them any intel I can. I can provide them any support I can, even if it doesn't generate opportunity or revenue in the immediate, to show them that in the long term, this is why we are here. We are here to forever be your partner, to be your confidant, to be able to support you in any way. And this is kind of the vision of the business, and our mission statement is, we want to be fully ingrained into exactly what our clients do to be able to support them to the best possible way we can.
Yeah, because look, go back to COVID. One of the things I found, so my coaching business was, as you know, born during COVID, and then which led to the summits and everything else. And I remember saying to everybody, my clients, keep talking to your clients, because you know what? They're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of people just didn't do that. And then when things got quote unquote easier again, as in suddenly everyone's like, oh my God, we need work from home now. We need this tech, that tech, all the rest of it. Then they're calling up for business. You only want to be here for the good times.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And clients remember that. Forget clients. Imagine if you've got a partner, right, who only calls you when they think you've got money to spend.
Exactly. I can kind of piggyback off of that with a great little story. I vividly remember still to this day, Monday, March 16th, the organization I was with, we shut down, we went fully remote, and everybody, I was in a VP position for an engineering group, and everybody was like, what do we do now? And of course, they're looking at you as a senior leader to try and figure out, what is it that we do? And these are unprecedented times. There's no book for this. There's no manual for this. There's no YouTube video to watch. But the reality of it was that at that moment, it dawned on me that it was about simplifying and going back to what we can control. And that was the message we conveyed, or I conveyed across the teams, was control what we can control. You can control your output, the conversations you have, the interactions you have with your clients and your talent, the support to show them that, yes, you're going through pain as well, but hey, you're right there beside them. And I believe that set us up for success the next 3 years, because when we got out of 2020 and into 21, now I will preface 21 and 22 was a bit of an anomaly in the industry. It became very, I don't want to say easy because this industry is never easy, but it became a lot easier than most other years and most other times to generate revenue and gather opportunity. But where it really stands true to the going back to 2020 about that control what you can control and be there for your partners and have the conversations was in 23 when that reset happened and the industry started to get back to what it used to be, or even more difficult than what it used to be, and realigned itself. We had some of our strongest EBITDA performances and our largest EBITDA year as an engineering group, specifically within that organization. And we did it with a much leaner team. So it shows you that it was all driven from those relationships, because there's no way we could have converted that 2023 that we had if we just showed up when the times were good, because 23 was a struggle.
Yeah, fair day weather people, right? And you've demonstrated that by your launch date, right? So we were talking earlier, you were not going to be the sole partner in this business. You actually had, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, whatever the number was. And then that changed. And the reason I want to bring this up is because I don't want anyone to take away from this that if they choose not to launch on a certain date because of the economy or external factors, it makes them wrong or somehow weak.
No, not at all. I mean, like I said, this conceptually, this has been in the back of my mind for a decade, if not a little bit more. And the amount of conversations you have with different people during that time as to gauging their interest in maybe joining you, or, getting a better understanding as to maybe, because I can assure you, I don't have all the answers. I don't even know if I did this correctly. I'm still learning on a day to day. It's been great. We've been successful so far out the gate. We've gathered a lot of great client relationships, opportunity, revenue generation. It's all already happened within the first 30 days, 60 days, but nobody can predict that.
Yep.
And every person, regardless where they are in their phase of career or phase of life, they all have a different need. They all have a different, what they need to get out of it, but also then what their appetite is for their future as well. So yeah, there was many, many different conversations with many different people that are all very, well known in the industry or high up in the industry. And uniquely enough, actually, it's been, I can't believe how many I've seen that are senior leaders now that have launched in recent dates.
Yeah.
There was a huge one last week down in the US that I was in conversation with them, just, congratulating them recently last week. And this is somebody who is, or people that have been 23 years with the same organization, have been relocated to multiple countries with the same organization. And then they went out on their own, just like that, in the middle of these economic uncertainties still, and they did have a couple of partners. But again, they are at a different phase, maybe at their position in their life. They have different opportunities that they're trying to seek. For me, it was a time in which it just aligned. It aligned with my family. It aligned with, and yes, the economy maybe didn't align. But the reality of it is I don't think you're going to check every box when it comes time to actually do this. It's just a matter of, when are you going to dive in and take the risk? Because it is a risk, and hit the ground running and know that it's going to be a grind. It's a commitment. It's longer hours. It's more stress on you. It's more pressure on you. Me, myself right now as an organization, I speak in the context of we, but I am just me. And I am the salesperson, the delivery person, the administrator, the social content developer, the marketer, like all of those things. And there's a lot of time in the day, but there's not necessarily enough to do all of those.
100%. I want to ask you something. By the time this airs, you'll be 2.5, 3 months in. But as we're recording, you're kind of 2 months in.
Yep.
What is the one thing, if you were doing it again, that you would do differently? Something you learned really fast. And then the follow-up question to that's going to be, what's the one thing you're like, oh my God, I made this decision. Thank God I made this decision to do X.
Great questions. I think one of the things that I would do differently right now that I have already come to learn over the first, 60 days or so is there is so much AI tools, automation, everything out there. And I maybe put too much pressure on myself to have to find a platform sooner than necessary.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily need that CRM or that ATS or whatever it is that you're going to use it for right out the gate. you realistically need a tool or tools that are going to provide you the best opportunity to find the talent that you need within your specialization. A lot of the specializations that I work in is that technical side of things. They're either on those tools that are very common to a lot of us, or they're in your network personally, as in like it's just a phone call away, because that's how that engineering or above type passive seekers tend to navigate the job market. So that was one of the things I think I put too much pressure on. It's a learning curve though through the entire process, in terms of like you're so ingrained into what you know because you have been in big business or big corporate for so many years, and that's what you think you need because you see that. But then when you actually step out, it's like, I don't necessarily need all of those 5 things that they had or they use. I can actually leverage it a little bit less.
I like that. So let me just ask you a quick question on that one, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I'd really like that, because right now, everyone's talking tech, right? I'm old school. I'm the first to admit that. We have tech, of course we do, but I'm very much old school. And every time a new tech is brought to me, I'm like, another friggin' shiny thing.
Yep.
And there's this thought process, and I think it's a misconception. Oh my God, my competitors must have this, so I'm at a disadvantage if I don't have this. And not this year's summit, I think it was last year's summit, I asked the CEO panel how much of a tech stack that they have actually gets used. They were saying for some reason 58% seems to be the number that one of them gave me, and is ringing a bell. So it wasn't 58, maybe it was 50. That's a lot of wasted money. And what you need as a big company is not necessarily what you need as a small company.
I'll tell you, some of the greatest recruiters, 360s, whatever you want to reference them as, that I have had the pleasure of working with in this industry, that I had the pleasure of conversing with in this industry or networking with. And I'm talking $1 million billers, annually in any condition, in any market, are the ones that the big corporate generally get frustrated with because they don't use the tech. The reality, though, of it is that these, to your point, and I'm the same way, these are old school, generational, industry veterans or leaders that grew up on leveraging their network, having handshake conversations, those coffee type conversations, and being able to get an order, do an order intake, make 3 phone calls to anybody, and then find your perfect candidate within a couple of days of those initial phone calls. Now, I do believe, though, I think you have to understand that happens more so in this kind of like larger technical space. It doesn't necessarily happen in more of the general staffing style. And I do believe that in that general staffing style, that is where a lot of those tools are leveraged a lot more and more successfully. I'm not promoting against tools by any means. It's just a matter of what tools for what business is the real side of things. And for me, that's where I kind of go back to your initial question as to like, what would I do different is, I don't think I would have dove into the initial tools maybe that I had conversations with or demos with or a lot of things like that. I would have probably just taken a step back and then realized, what is it that has made a lot of those great ones that I have worked with or networked with successful? What tools have they used? What have I used? I mean, I'm running a desk right now. I haven't run a desk in 12 years, right?
So, you enjoying it?
I'm loving it. It's so exciting. Again, the thrill of the hunt when it comes to the client side of things, the network and development on the and relation on the talent side of things. This is what this industry is all derived from. This is the foundation of this industry. It's relationship driven. It's conversation. It's partnership. It's exciting. And yeah, you know what? I mean, my want to move away from big corporate as I progressed through my career was probably more motivated on a couple of different things. One, not being receptive as much to new concept or concept development or anything that I was constantly promoting or pushing or establishing and presenting. And then 2, being like, you have to go back to understanding, my history and then big corporate's history. So again, going back my history, starting in an automotive seat and an engineering seat and then being technical all the way through. But I've gotten to have the fortunate opportunity to work for some of the greatest brands in this industry. Now, I've gotten to do it on both sides of the coin in the sense of like North American brands, so North American established brands, entities that were, whether it's Canadian or American, that were ground up built here. And then I've got to do it with a lot of the European brands that are obviously massive globally. But again, let's kind of align it between what I have done and done successfully over the years, which is, lead and manage and develop either a desk or teams within technical business, specifically engineering, and what they and their foundation has been over the years to make them the global empires that they are, which is more of that general staffing style of things. More specifically on the European side of the coin and not so much on the North American side of the coin, because there's some phenomenal, like a Canadian-based firm that we're familiar with that does technical business very well. And yes, they do a lot of M&A as well, and they do bring in other specialties within their business. But their foundation was built off of that kind of energy, Western Canada
It's
energy
their DNA.
sector. Yeah, exactly. Same with an American firm that I used to work with, where yes, you know what, it started out as general staffing in their conception, but as they built up, they became tech, and technical was within their name, as their specialization, and they did it very well. Whereas, on the other side of the coin, it's very general staffing driven, it's very general staffing based, and it's a very general staffing mindset. So when you're in there leading, large engineering teams or large technical teams, and you're trying to get the advancement and development of those teams or the injection that you need within those teams to get them to the next level, there's not a whole lot of understanding there there's a lot of fear because it's the unknown essentially. You use the data, you use market insights, you use the trends, and we obviously see a lot of different things that are trending upwards within the technical sector. So construction is one of them. On the tech side of things, cybersecurity is another one. Mining is obviously getting a massive investment and push right now. There's a lot of great opportunity out there. But when you have those conversations with companies that have established billions of dollars off of the general staffing footprint, it's really hard to get.
It's because it's what they know. It's like everything else, right? We always go back to what we know.
Correct.
Because that is your quote unquote bread and butter. That's your DNA. But I do want to bring us back to my question. So we know what you would do differently.
Yes.
What's the one thing that you're like, I am so glad I done it this way?
Yep. Timing. The same thing that
you're going to say timing.
You hone in on it, and I respect and understand where you're coming from in that, because you are trying to show the audience two different sides of it, as in the timing of can be so scary, or the timing of can be so critical because of how scary it is that it develops opportunity. To me, it's the timing. For me to jump in, like let's say in 21 or 22, this easily could have been established, and it easily could have taken off with a lot of great opportunity, but it would have felt very transactional then. It would have felt like the intentions were maybe not aligned with what I'm really trying to establish long term. And I'm not, I want to make sure we understand that. That's not a knock on any organization that started up during those times, because there's some phenomenal organizations out there right now that are doing extremely well. But there's a lot to be said when you are willing to risk, as you said, a very secure, consistent paycheck and opportunity for growth within this industry, to go out on your own and show partners and client, whether it's client or talent, that you are in the trenches with them and you want to be right beside them and you want to establish your relationship with them and support them. And that timing to me was, while scary to some, it was very critical to me. It was something to me that I recognized as opportunity. I took a look at where the landscape of the industry was going and where the trajectory of the technical side of the business, so staying in my lane and leverage, as you said, the general staffing companies, they leverage what they know, they stay within what they know. I'm doing the same. I'm leveraging what I know, and I'm going to stay within what I know. Well, there's some great opportunity right now for me to be able to get the foundation of the company built that I need to, at the same time being there alongside some great future opportunity in conversation and partnership. So yeah, the timing for me was the critical component to it. That was the one thing I wouldn't change. Not to say, every day is perfect, as we know. I mean, running an organization or running a business is never perfect. But I don't regret that. That's for sure. I think it's proven to be exactly what we expected it to be.
Amazing. I want to pivot to the personal side of things. When you have a regular paycheck, Okay. Although our industry, we're not anybody that's successful is not a 9 to 5. There's that variance, right? But what is consistent is the bi-weekly paycheck,
Yes.
whatever. And let's say there's no commissions, no bonus. You still know, you know what? I'm going to get X, so my mortgage is going to go through. And we're salespeople. We're not accountants, so we don't save the same way. We
Yeah.
go, I know I certainly do. It's like, okay, like I want a new car. We're in the market for a new car for me now.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, and we're looking. It's probably going to cost. We're probably 70 grand, something like that, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Cheap end maybe 50. And that drives me because I say, okay, well, I need to earn XYZ to get that, right?
Yes.
An accountant puts it in the bank. So you've got a young son, 7-year-old, I think you said.
Yes. Correct. Yep.
Your wife, you came from this steady quote unquote paycheck.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, you may be working not home till 9 o'clock one night, but the money was coming in. And when you're in a startup, you're working even harder. And you're kind of saying, yeah, maybe we're not going Hawaii this year that we're used to doing it. So how did that impact the personal side of things?
Yeah. I think one of the greatest things we all do things for certain reasons. I think one of the biggest things everybody does something for is obviously family.
Yep.
It goes an extremely long way to have a very strong support mechanism supporting you on a day-to-day in the background through the good, the bad, all the triumphs, all the downturns. And yeah, I mean, this industry has afforded my family a fantastic lifestyle. It has afforded us a ton of opportunity extracurricularly, and it has afforded me the opportunity to be exactly where I am right now as well. Everything that I have experienced over the last almost 2 decades. And it is scary sitting around the dining room table with your wife, trying to plan out an organization or build out a company and say, I'm doing this. And you see the fear come across their face, but they say, I support you. I love you. I know you can do this. I know your experience. I know your knowledge. I see how hard you've worked for all of those other brands over the years, because as you said, this is not a 9 to 5. I've been on vacation, in the Dominican, and I'm taking phone calls and I'm sending emails and I'm, all over the place. And we've all done it. And this is how, my motto in this industry is what you put into this is what you get out of this. Right. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be on the ball 24/7. That's my choice. That's what I do. That's just how I function. It keeps me in tuned in the business, but you rarely get the success you need when you're checking in at 9 and you're knocking out at 5, right? In this industry. So it's been a lot of long conversations. It's been a lot of, stressful experiences in terms of establishing things. And obviously there's a lot of upfront costs that come into that. And I'm not making a paycheck. I mean, and I don't know when I will, but that's just business. And I'm willing to take that chance. That's something that my wife, obviously my son being 7, not understanding, but the indirect support of my son is, they are there to help guide and motivate. So you'll see marketing things that come out for Project 13. That's my wife doing things in the background, not as an employee of the organization, just in her own free time, because she's committed to this as well. There's times I got to check out early for my son's athletics. And that's obviously known from all of us in the business that, hey, we got to take care of our family. But then when I get back at 8, 9 o'clock at night, I'm right back online potentially, depending on what I need to do or what I need to wrap up. So it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everybody, as you know. I mean, you've done it yourself successfully, but it is something that can't be done without the full support of a strong family, a strong team in the background. And I'm very fortunate to have that. I'm very fortunate to have somebody who has been with me for, out of the almost 2 decades I've been in the business, most of that. So they understand exactly where my skill set is, my knowledge is. And
I'm glad you said that because earlier about your son, because look, being self-employed does not mean you have to miss out on important family events. Now, I am going to say you choose what those events are.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't be like all my family's in England. So they're always saying to me, come to this, come to this, come to that. I'm like, I'm on the other side of the pond. It's a huge cost, and I can't come just for the evening, right? So
Exactly.
I have to be mindful of how we
Yeah.
plan things. But even this weekend was the long weekend. I had so much to do, but I had the kids were home. So
Nah,
back on my mind, I was like, oh God, I got to do this, got to do this, got to do that. In the end, I was like, no, forget it. I'm not doing it.
you
But
consciously choose to put
conscious.
your effort into the family.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. It now means that I will play catch up this week, quote unquote.
exactly. Yep.
But I like the fact that you said you're not, this does not, being self employed does not mean you have to miss your 7-year-old's football practice, dance recital, or even pick them up from school.
Nope. That's one thing I love. I do the drop off and pick up every single day. So I drop off at 8:30, I pick up at 3:15. Even if it's just a breath of fresh air that I get for those 15 minutes that I do that, it helps me focus, reset, align with what I need to do from a business perspective. I love hearing about his day at school. I'm not going to give that away just to be able to send another email or whatever the case may be, because I can sit there with him for 30 minutes, get him a snack, have a conversation. How was your day, pal? Listen to him, engage with him, and then say, okay, daddy just needs to get on a work call. And he understands at 7, he understands it. So he'll, entertain himself for that time. And I step away and I do my business. And then I continue on my day. And then my wife's in shortly thereafter anyways, so I can continue on further.
But he knows you're not doing the business at his expense because you and him have had your quote unquote time. He's had quality time with you, right?
Absolutely.
Because
Yep.
we often think when we quote unquote in a startup situation or a turnaround situation, we think we have to make all of these sacrifices. Yes, you make some sacrifices, but there's some sacrifices that you choose not to make, and that's okay not to make those sacrifices.
Everybody values things a different way. And it's all a matter of, there is no, first off, let's make sure we understand that there's no incorrect value to any individual. Whatever you value it as is your choice, and you're entitled to that. And maybe my alignment of value is slightly different than yours, and that's okay. But there's certain things that are untouchable for me in my daily routine or weekly routine, and the one being pick up and drop off is an untouchable to me. I will plan meetings before or after. I will make sure that my calendar aligns or my clients understand that these are the things that I value. And I'll tell you, I was recently at a client meeting, not last week, the week before, 2 weeks ago, I was at a client meeting. I spoke openly and transparently about, my why into this, why I ventured into this. I spoke openly and transparently about, my knowledge of the industry and how it's all become, as it is today. And I spoke openly and transparently about where Project 13 came from, the establishment of the branding, the name, as well as, the time and effort that I put in and where I will be at certain times of the day for my clientele. And I had a VP of people and culture sit there, and I had 6 people meeting with me from this company. And the VP of culture looked at me across the table and said, "It is so refreshing from your industry specifically, David, to hear you speak this way." Because majority of the time, she feels as though it's just all transactional. It's just all pursuing the money. And yes, I mean, this is obviously what we're in it for.
We're
right?
sales.
Yeah, we're salespeople. But we have to understand that this is a different time now. Like, there's a lot of old school methodologies that work, but then there's also a lot of new school methodologies that kind of need to be implemented within that sales process. Being vulnerable and being transparent and being just honest, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I had a meeting with a client, and they asked me specifically about kind of a venture capitalist type opportunities and hiring within their teams. So like, their type of salespeople. And I said, honestly, I appreciate you giving me the time for the meeting. I would do you a disservice if I was to engage with you in this business right now, because this is not the niche by which we are looking to be fundamentally established. And it's not a niche by which I would be able to provide you with the skill set that you need, because I don't have it. And I think that's where a lot of struggles lie in this startup phase, as well as maybe even in the big corporate phase, is that, a lot of people are chasing a paycheck.
Scared to say no.
Yeah. And scared to say no. One of the greatest lines I ever heard from one of my favorite people in this industry that I worked with for a very long time. And if she watches this, she'll know who she is. Her favorite sentence is, "No is a full sentence." It really is. And you need to understand that it is okay to say no. It is okay to be honest and transparent. And I think that's where a lot gets convoluted in this industry right now. But
it's especially in that startup phase. There's a client on my coaching side that I'm starting a 12-month program with, and we were talking because he's like yourself. He's coming from a big corporate, going out on his own after a very, very long time in that corporate world. And one of the things I said to him was, I'm going to have to rein you back rather than push you, because his mindset very much is, okay, well, I'm going to start up. I want to specialize, but in the meantime, I could do this. And I'm like, no, because when you start doing this, you inevitably get used to that income. Your brand is built, all of that stuff, right?
yeah,
So one of the places where I said to him, we're going to have to start is if that is where you want to be, that's great. Don't
yeah,
try and mix the two. And I think part of it is we think we have, okay, I've got to be careful how I say this. Yes, we have to generate revenue, but we
yes,
think we have to grab anything to have money coming in. And I get it. If you're starting this on a budget, or I get that,
yep,
right? But there's still that level of, and this is what I'm hearing from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, the level of thought you put into this rather than just waking up one day and saying, right, you know what, hell, I'm pulling the plug. We
yeah,
talked about the tech piece. We talked about, I mean, I'd like to think everybody has the significant in-depth conversations with their significant other, right? I'd like
I would
to
hope
think,
so.
yeah, I hope so, right? But you've talked about all of that, and you really have a very clear vision in your mind what you want to be for your clients and the talent that you're working with. And you're really holding on to that and staying true to that,
Yeah. I
right?
think you have to. I think there's been a lot of successful people that have been generalists in this
Yep.
industry for a long time, and kudos to them. That is amazing, because to be able to manage that many moving pieces successfully is incredible. But the reality of it is, it could be very easy for me to turn around right now and I can take 12 orders that are completely outside of the space by which I want this organization to work on. And don't get me wrong, it is very enticing, obviously,
Yep.
because it could provide immediate generation of revenue and or more revenue than we've already generated, and really set us up to then kind of invest and go get the skill sets that we want. But to your point, at what point then does your brand really not stand for what you established it for, and then get convoluted to your clientele or your talent when you're trying to have those conversations? And B, at what point do you stop doing that? Because then it feels like you're trying to recreate all over again if you do have to do that. And that feels like, yes, you gained reward from revenue generation in the bank, but then you're having to reestablish your footprint all over again. That's a lot of heavy lifting. That's a lot of marketing, conversation. And really, I mean, any startup, you kind of look at it in cycles, right? The first 3 months, you're trying to just introduce yourself to the market, have conversations, have people understand what it is you do. And if you're really concerned within those first 3 months about revenue generation, I'm not going to say that you're probably doing it wrong, because I definitely don't have the answers, but I know that wasn't going to be my vision. I wasn't worried about necessarily making revenue generation what we do in the first 3 months. It was going to be about brand recognition, market intelligence as to who we are, what we do, and why. Leveraging, having those conversations and leveraging our skill set and our niche background from where we've been in this industry, whether it's conversations with clients or talents or industry individuals. And then as you progress out of that, hey world, here we are phase, and this is what we do phase, and pay attention to us because we're here to be here forever and provide that partnership to you. Then you progress more into, okay, really, let's start attacking exactly what we're here for, exactly that footprint that we've just spent 3 months establishing, and go out there and drive those positive conversations within that niche skill sets that we want to work within. Because again, it's fundamentally, you are trying to establish a footprint within a certain niche genre that you want to stay within for the life cycle of your business. Maybe give or take one or two changes here or there, or a lot of changes here or there, but all within the same realm. But if you come out the gate as a catch-me-all, You're going to be chasing your tail the whole time. And I use that knowledge and leverage and experience because I've seen those that try to do. I think, Suki, you've probably heard this from countless recruiters that you've heard that, oh, I work for an organization and they specialize me and I don't get enough opportunity. And, more is more. I need more opportunity to develop more money and to develop. And the reality of it is, it's like, well, no, let's evaluate this, because if you are niche, specifically, let's say construction, less is more. Yeah. You could probably make a fantastic living off of about 6 job titles within the construction sector, depending if it's civil or if it's commercial or residential, whatever the case may be, where you and your family are set up for life and it's a revolving door for you constantly within those cycles. And those people get it. Those people understand that it's actually less is more in this industry. It's not more is more.
I always say specialization is really important. Stick to what you know best.
Yes.
Now, that may well be general staffing. Fantastic. You come from that world, all that mindset, and right? Fantastic. Then stay in that space. But I'm a firm believer, like all I do is in that rec space. My summits are designed around that. The forums designed around that. The coaching is designed around that.
Yep.
Right. So you can grow your business and quote unquote have other revenue streams, but you've got to, like I was saying at the Build Your Brand workshop, you have to educate your clients and talent with who you are, when they should come to you.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
I don't have people coming to me and saying, can you get me a techie person? Because they know that is not my space. They come to me and say, hey, I know you know great technical recruitment companies. Who can you connect us to?
Correct. Yep. And that's what you want. Because that's when you have set the tone for exactly what your brand is and you have presented your brand correctly. And they know exactly what it is you do and they come to you for it. Again, going back to one of the client meetings I recently had, there was opportunity to take production workers right away or something along those lines. And I was just honest and transparent in saying that is not our forte. That's not how this organization is aligned. However, we'll assist you with all of your technical stuff, like your engineering stuff. And I mean, we got 3 or 4 orders from that particular client exactly in that space. And that's perfect because we know exactly what we're looking for there. We know exactly what we're focused on there.
Sometimes the most profitable thing you can do for your business and for a client is say no.
I agree. Yeah.
Right? You say no because that allows you to focus your time, energy elsewhere with a more quote unquote relevant client. It also tells that client, actually, you know what? This is a partnership. And when they have that type of role, to your point, production manager, and you said no to that, but you took that bit.
Yes.
You told that client that, no, you're not just looking for revenue. Look, I know we're coming up to time. So let's throw, what is the one thing you would say to anyone that's planning on going out on their own or has just gone out on their own and they're just kind of like, oh.
Yeah, pick a lane. I think that was one of the things that I was going to be when I established the vision, when I sat down and I drew it all out and I mapped it. The vision was to be very niche specific and having a good focus and making sure then you stuck to that focus, you committed to it, because it may not generate your revenue immediately. Secondary to that, though, when I say pick a lane you know. Pick a lane you understand. Don't just pick a lane because you see market trends or market insights that are deeming it to be very successful at this moment, but you don't understand it or you've never had experience within it. Because the reality of it is that, I think you spoke to it, imposter syndrome comes out, right?
Yeah.
And you will get caught in that. And you don't want to do that for your brand. That is not, if you're really trying to establish a true entity, a true brand, that has a good critical understanding of exactly what they do and clients understand it and talent understands it, you need to leverage what you know. I will never step out and say I understand general staffing. I don't. And it is a world I would rather not get into at all.
Fair enough.
It's just not for me. Professional side as well. Finance and accounting, again, not a side I fully understand. And I don't ever say that I do. And I probably wouldn't step into it. Now, is that something down the road we could potentially look at as a growth mechanism by hiring the right talent to come in who does have that experience? Sure. but is it what we want to be in the immediate? No. And I think that would be my advice to anybody that is either contemplating going out on their own or interested or currently out on their own and having some struggles is execute on your vision and make sure that your vision is specifically designed around what it is you do and what it is you know best, and leverage that and then commit to it. It's a process. This doesn't happen overnight, right?
It's a mindset
you got
as
to
well.
Walk before you can run.
Yeah,
right?
It's a mindset, right? So a potential client, talent is listening to this and they want to reach out to you. How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so project13.com, Project 13 being the Roman numeral, XIII. You can reach out there. Our LinkedIn page as well, the Project 13 LinkedIn page. You can find me on LinkedIn and reach out to me at any time. My motto is every conversation holds value, whether it be 2 minutes or 2 hours. So I'm open to having conversation. A lot of great opportunity out there right now for clients and talent to engage with as well. So, we hope that they come around. But otherwise, thank you, Suki.
Thank you for sharing your journey. No, this has been amazing because I'm already, as we were recording, I was already thinking of some individuals I was going to send this recording to because I need to hear what you were saying.
And I will gladly invite a conversation or a coffee or anything with those individuals. And I think that's one of the other things too in this industry. We get very close to the chest in this industry, and I really don't think we should be.
No.
There's so much out there for everybody to have opportunity, and having that open dialogue only makes us stronger and educates us further. And I'm open to that at any time.
Fantastic. David, thank you ever so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
You as well, Suki. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talent Titans, brought to you by Recruitment Professional Forum, where they're building a grassroots community for professionals and leaders in the recruitment industry to collaborate, advocate, and advance the profession. If you liked or were inspired by what you heard, make sure to follow, subscribe, and even leave a review. It lets more talented recruiters like you find the show. Until next time, keep on being a talent titan.